do, we decided to come to Portugal and scout it out. And we knew we wanted to be in northern Portugal. The reason being we were hoping for a cooler climate. We were just done with the big heat. So we scouted out several cities, and Lisbon's very expensive, but it wasn't a good fit. Porto is amazing, and it's only an hour away. And Braga was just right. So Braga is about the size of Denton. And it's got, it's very culturally, it's got lots and lots to do here. So we quickly realized that maybe we could do this, and we found a spot. So then the next step was finding, doing the processes and getting the paperwork done to move.
Can you talk about that process? Because I think that's very intimidating for a lot of people. Government forms, and do I need lawyers, and do I need a firm to support me? Tell me about what you think is best. And I'm also going to put some resources in the chat while you're talking as well.
Absolutely. Paperwork can be intimidating, but Portugal did offer several visa options. And the one that fit for us is the D7. And the D7 is one that requires a passive income. So that's Social Security, pension, investment income. And if you can meet a very low, it's a relatively low bar. It is for the first person, it is Portuguese minimum wage. For the second person, it's half of that. So numbers wise, that's about 8,000 and 4,000 per year to show that you can bring that in. Realistically, you need more than that, but that's what the numbers say.
I was about to ask you, I know the requirements are very low, but how much does it actually cost an average expat to live in Portugal?
No, we live a small life. We don't have a car, and our rent is low. But I think with 3,000 US a month, you would live a relatively
couple
life. Yes.
Okay, so cheaper than the US, cheaper than
absolutely. Yeah,
sounds,
absolutely.
Sounds a lot cheaper than Texas, actually. So,
and that covers everything. That covers food and healthcare and all rent and all of and travel and groceries.
And actually, you bring up a really important point, which I think is on our list. If not, I'm going to skip ahead. But healthcare, it's a big concern for many retirees, because the one time in America that you actually get healthcare is when you turn 65, right? Then you get Medicare, which I wish everyone had. So what is the healthcare like? How expensive is it? Or from what I understand, it's included in your visa. You are entitled to use state healthcare. I don't know.
Well, in your visa, you have to show that you have purchased healthcare for the process. But after you're here and your residency is approved, we qualified for their public system, SNS. And with that, healthcare is free. But we also purchased private health insurance. The reason being, we were hearing that the public is wonderful if you were very, very sick. But for other things, basic checkups, mammograms, dentist, it was good to do the private. Now the private, we bought one through the hospital, and it was 15 euros for each of us a piece a month.
Wow.
So yeah, we went with that.
That's
good.
super cheap.
That was super cheap, but that was more of a until you spend this much, and it covered what we needed because we're relatively healthy. And then now we have since upgraded, and the reason being, I'm getting older, something may come up, and we thought just in case, because what we're paying is about $170 a month for the both of us for private health insurance,
which is less than your co-pays for most insurance in America. Don't even get me started on premiums and deductibles and
I'm 65 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's with it would be much less if
you were younger, right? Okay, that's a good point. So
yeah, but as far as our experience with the healthcare system here, I think sometimes as Americans we hear that other countries, their health insurance, their insurance isn't as good, their facilities, their medical not as good. But they know it's expensive in the US, but the reality has been it's amazing. My dentist has been amazing. My healthcare has been amazing. The checkups have been wonderful and free.
Yeah.
The dental work is not, but you know, it's just been a really good experience.
Is dental care included in your private health insurance?
Yes,
Oh,
but
wow.
but
Yeah.
it is expensive compared to other things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It always is, I guess.
yes, yes, because and I've had some major dental work done here, and it was very successful. A third of the price of the U.S., but it's not. It wasn't free. It was, you know, there is a cost.
Okay. Fair enough.
But we don't worry about healthcare. I've known several people who have been diagnosed with, you know, gotten very sick here and have gone through treatment, chemotherapy, and have come out the other end, and they've been very pleased with the processes here. So it's not true to think that it's that you know they have top shelf doctors and facilities here.
And
So
you remind me also of the issue about language, because I can imagine if you didn't speak good Portuguese, the healthcare system might be challenging to navigate. And I don't know what the acceptance of English in Portugal is. In Holland, where I've lived and where I'm going back to, everyone speaks English. But I think in Portugal, it's maybe less so. So tell me about your journey to learn Portuguese, how needed it is, and what kind of circumstances. Do you have time? Do people get upset if you don't speak Portuguese? Tell me about your experience with Portuguese language.
we're both in class right now to learn Portuguese. It's about 6 hours a week. And my husband is a bit much more extensive. He went to the university as well, and he's had a private tutor. So the first time I went to the public health doctor, he came with me to help translate. And that was very helpful. She did know a little bit of English, and he knew Portuguese, and they were able to work through that. Now, in some of the larger cities, like Lisbon and Porto, you're going to hear English a lot more. Braga, you will hear it as well, just not as much as those places. But we have been able to navigate it pretty well. Even, you know, we use apps, translation apps when needed, but generally a lot of young people can speak English. The older Portuguese speak French as their second language
Oh,
often.
nice.
But but the younger ones have learned English. But we really tried to, and often they will apologize for how bad their English is, and we apologize for not knowing Portuguese. It's because it's, you know, we are trying, and sometimes they will try to speak English and make it quicker for us, and we'll say we hope to speak a little Portuguese with them to get the conversation in, because it's what much needed, because it is a hard language to learn, and the
Yeah.
older you are, the harder it is to learn a new language.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
getting there.
Good. That's very encouraging.
Mm.
Speaking of things that are hard, what has been the hardest part of immigrating?
Um, the obvious is missing family being in the same room with you or being close by. So we have tried to work through that by we're traveling back to the US more than we expected. But then when you move to Portugal, everybody comes to visit.
Right.
So they really do. People want to come and visit. So it's that has been really hard though. I've gone through some peaks and valleys on that. I don't want to move back to Texas or to the US, but you give up a big chunk when you leave your family, and they're there and you're here. But going, you know, we do Zoom calls, we go back and forth, but it's still not the same. And that's hard.
Um, I saw, I mean, I was going to go through all the questions, but let's jump in here because this is a good question. Brandy's asking, are you allowed to continue to work? My understanding with the D7 is you are allowed to work with the D7.
No, it's a passive income visa. There are other visas. Many people here work. There's a big community of young expats here who are working, but not on this visa that I'm on.
Okay, my understanding was you could work on it if you wanted to. There was no restriction, but it sounds like I'm misinformed on that. But there are other visas. There
Mhm.
are digital nomad visas if you're,
That's a new one, the digital nomad
yeah,
visa. Yeah.
yeah. I think you need something like 3,000 euros a month income.
I think that's right. I think I just read that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
And
think.
that's, as I said, relatively new. I think the golden visa, it's my understanding it's gone away, but I'm not positive. It was going away. There was a lot of pushback on that. But visas change, and there's a wonderful site, American and Friends PT, that keeps up with all of the
Facebook.
yes, on Facebook. It is, and it's constantly being curated and updated as things change. And so the checklists are there. People have beautiful Excel spreadsheets to follow. Great information, and that is what we did to get here. We found that site. And we read, watched YouTube videos, and we decided to, this is where we got the right information.
I've heard very good things about that site, and I think I've heard that they have just tons of resources that you could probably learn everything you needed to know from the stored documents. But then you've got a community of people who are all going through the same thing, supporting you as well as you go. And that was, tell me again the name of that Facebook page.
American and Friends PT.
Great. Okay. Everybody got
And then
that?
I sent you a screenshot of the face of it, so people, I mean, we could maybe share that later.
Yes. Yeah, I'll make sure that I put that up after our next question. So can you just talk a little bit about what's the best thing about living in Portugal? What have you liked the most, and maybe something that was a little surprising?
We love the culture of Portuguese people. They're very welcoming to Americans. So, we have sometimes in the world it feels like we're not welcome, and we've never felt that here. Personally, it's just been lovely being here in Portugal. They have been, as I said, more than welcoming, more than helpful. And once you're around a culture that feels this good, you feel like this is home. So it was hard to leave, but this has been a community that has been very healthy for us. It's a safe community, which, especially for a woman, you literally can walk around at midnight and feel comfortable. Part of you doesn't, coming from the US, you feel like that's not a reasonable thing to do. And then you realize that it is, and it takes some time to adjust to that. But yeah, it's been the being in Portugal is like no other country I've ever been in. We really feel at home and comfortable and welcomed here. So that's made a difference for us.
Have you found it easy to make friends with Portuguese, native Portuguese people as well as expats? Or are you mainly meeting other expats? What's your social life look like?
Mostly other expats, but we do have friends who are Portuguese. It is hard to make friends as adults anyway.
Yes.
And so when you come to a new place and you don't speak the language,
Yeah.
we have made some friends, but and there's a huge community of expats and that we are friends with. There's a group here in Braga that has a Facebook page and lots of events and dinners, and it's lots of groups to join. So it's very social, and we know more people here than we knew in Texas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because people kind of cling to one another. You
But
want
also
a community here.
maybe because also you're in the way that cities are in Europe, you're out more, you're walking to the shop, you're running into people on the street. It's maybe you probably go to the pub in the evening and meet other people. Whereas I don't think we do that as much in the US because we have to drive everywhere.
Yeah, we don't have a car.
Yes. And we're exhausted.
We walk, we don't have a car. So we're in an old city center, and Braga is also it's a very much a party town, lots of festivals. It's the Rome of the Iberian Peninsula. So culturally, it's very religious,
Nice.
but it's also it's a college town as well. The arts are huge here. So many free events. So you meet and do all of those things as well. So that's another avenue for meeting people.
Which we got a question in the chat, but it's a good question to ask. I've been told that Portugal is among the most progressive places in Europe, that there are a lot of laws governing human rights and civil rights. And so we have a question from Connie about, is it LGBTQ friendly? What has your experience there been?
That's a great question. And there are many, many people here who have moved here who have been it seems that they've been very much welcomed. So it's it's hard for me to say if anyone has had issues because I'm not gay, and so maybe I have a different perception, but the friends we have who are seem to love it and thrive, and they're there's a huge community of people here who, it is a progressive place, and so it reflects that. But they have asked those questions, will we be welcome? I would say absolutely. And there are many people to ask that question to who are living it to see what their experience is. But I think it does give the impression that because it's the Rome of the Iberian Peninsula, maybe it's not as friendly, but it seems it's the opposite.
And of course, that probably varies from city to city and location to location. But from what I understand, the legal basis is there for protection. And I think many of us are very concerned about what's going to happen in the US with regard to all kinds of rights, of course, for women and for LGBTQ, obviously immigrants. There's many people are very afraid for a lot of good reasons. So that's good to know that that people feel safe there. And now, so you went there with your husband,
We
and
did.
but what if you were widowed or single? I mean, do you think Portugal would you feel safe going if you were on your own? Would you have embarked on this journey, do you think?
No, I don't think I would have. I think for me, it took the two of us to do this together. But there are many single people here who
Okay.
have done this. There are widowed people here who have done this.
So you
And
personally wouldn't do it, but
I
there are
don't think I would have done it. I think it took the two of us together to kind of come to this idea. And then we kind of work together. And so it is much more difficult if you're just one. But for some people, this wasn't as hard a process. And we had a very easy time. We did not have any of the roadblocks that some had. We had a smooth transition, but I don't know that I would have done it by myself. But I know several people who have.
Oh, we have a message from Charmin Piper, who's in Braga, and she says, I'm also an American expat here in Braga and have been pleasantly surprised at how welcoming Braga is to LGBTQ people. I know a surprising number of same-sex couples here. It feels very safe. So thank you, Charmin. Thanks for adding your voice. And Janet, this is an excellent question. What is housing like? Now, you've said that the rent is affordable. I know some people would probably buy a home. Although I've also heard people say always rent when you first get there to make sure you're in the right place and you learn the market, and you don't get sold the expat special. So tell me about the rental market. How hard was it to find a place? What's the quality of the housing like? What's the cost range of the housing? What's the experience like finding housing?
We were able to find our apartment on our own through Idealista, which people are usually warned against using it. But our experience was we found a place. We used an agent who helped us with the contract, and we've been in the same apartment.
I'm really curious what you've heard negative about Idealista because I'm on there every day looking at houses in Spain. And it just seems to be like Zillow. I've put a link I've seen it, I've used it for both Italy and Spain. So what do people say about Idealista that we should know about?
Before we came, we heard that you won't get responses, and that may
Oh,
be true. And it's best to work with, you used WhatsApp, and you could call and call and call and nothing will happen. But our experience was we found a place, it was available, then we did have to use an agent because for a rental you have to use an agent. At least that's what was our understanding. And because we were so new to this market, that was a smart thing to do. And but we were able to get the apartment relatively easily. So, but what we had heard was not what we've lived. Our experience was fine with Idealista.
and
Both.
did you find your place before you went or when you got there?
We found part of our packet was to show that we had a lease. We had a place to stay. So in our application, when we came, it was 12 months. We needed to have a 12-month rental contract signed, ready for us.
And you could do that
So
online.
We did do that. Some people come in person. We did it online. Our agent walked us through the apartment, and we saw the pictures online, but then he walked through the apartment. We could see that it was lovely. It was an unfurnished 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment.
Oh, wow.
It's right in the city center. It's an excellent location.
We can all come visit you. You've got lots of
Yes.
space for us.
But we got lucky, and we like it very much. Now, I also, it's my understanding too that rents are higher than what some of us have contracts, but rents have gone up. But our apartment, we've been very comfortable here, and so it's been a good rate for us. We've been able to afford it. And now, if and when we do buy or we move to it, we rent another apartment, we are now more familiar with the market. What's reasonable? Where do we want to live? What
But
neighborhood?
you're not planning to move. You
accessible?
like your apartment.
We absolutely love it. We
That's great.
absolutely love it. It's a good location. And
Are
it's a
you right in
lovely
the center of
neighborhood.
town?
We are like the equivalent of Bourbon Street. We are, if Braga had a Bourbon Street, that's where we are. We are in the center of the old city center by the wall.
That's
And
what I thought. Yeah.
yeah,
You walk downstairs and you're in outdoor cafes and
we are.
restaurants
Pharmacies,
and everything.
bakeries, and all of the things are here. Mhm.
The food is amazing in Portugal. I think it's so amazing.
I do love the food.
And the wine.
And the wine. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
cheap. Water and wine, it's the same. It's true.
Unlike America, where I find everything really expensive in America, certainly wines, crazy prices.
Yeah.
And what about one of the things I hear from a lot of people is I would love to go to Portugal, but I have children and grandchildren. I can't be away from them. And I know you faced a similar
Mhm.
circumstance. Tell me how you've navigated that. What is
I
your
don't have a good answer for that. I
yeah.
think there are many people here with grandchildren. I am having a hard time with it. But I'm going to see him again soon in a few weeks, and that'll be nice. But there are many, many people with children, and we're looking at it another way. When they're a little older, we'll be the cool grandparents in Europe that they can come visit.
You're
Right.
right. They can spend their summers with you.
That's all I got. That helps. But we have made the decision to go back more than we expected that we would initially when we first came over. But yeah, I think it also teaches your kids that if you have this idea, maybe you can do this. Because when I say I didn't think we were the people that were going to be moving to Europe, that not in a million years did I think this was going to happen. I couldn't stress that enough.
I mean, it
It's a hard
sounds
thing
very
to take away.
posh. It
But
sounds very
it's
posh. I'm
very
really
doable though. It is very doable. Yeah, it does sound posh. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I mean, and yet here we are.
Yeah,
So,
here we are.
but we chose a country that was affordable. We did the research on the climate and what the costs were going to be. Now we didn't count on inflation that was worldwide inflation, and it hit Portugal as well.
Yeah.
But we still live a very small life. As I said, we walk. We don't have a dryer. We dry our clothes the Portuguese way. We've really tried to assimilate into this country and could do things that give a small footprint.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's not very expensive for us. And when we do, it's for travel because we can get to other places relatively inexpensively from here. So it's been great as a jumping off point.
I know you're progressive. I'm wondering how you're feeling about Trump's victory on November 5th and how that fits into do you just feel incredibly smart that you got out when you did? Do you feel like, that you would come back under the circumstances, or sort of what you're feeling about Trump and his win on November 5th?
I just really hate the way it affects everything, right? I think about it, the last thing I think about before I fall asleep. It's just so hard. And we were gutted because we had hope for a couple months that this was going to work.
Yeah, we all did.
And boy, that felt good. This hope
Yeah.
felt really good. And
Yeah.
so we were just devastated. I don't know how bad it will be. I'm hoping I don't want to spiral and start coming up with the worst scenarios. I'm hoping that that clearer heads will prevail, as they say. I don't feel smarter because we came here. I'm just glad we're a lifeline. I'm glad we did it. We didn't only do it for political reasons, but that we would probably not have done it if it wasn't for that. But we also wanted the adventure of trying something like this.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I mean, your life sounds really wonderful to me. And I do think you were clever to get out when you did, because I do think that the getting visas will become more difficult because of the number of people who are trying to get appointments with
Well,
the
Portugal is ramping up for that, or they're trying to. We have
Good.
just renewed our residency. So we had the first 2 years. The way this works, when you first apply, so you have 2 years. And then we renewed for 3 more years, and we were able to do that online. And then the goal will be citizenship. And one reason we need to learn the language is because there's a Portuguese language test for citizenship. So once we have
How long does the process take to become citizens from the time you arrive there?
So technically, I think we can try again in 5 years. So, but it's my understanding that it's going to take a year or two, and before from the time you apply for the citizenship, but you'll keep renewing as a resident. And as I said, this time for 3 years, we were able to do that online.
I was going to ask you for some resources. You've already shared some. Two of them we've already put in, which is the American and Friends PT, and the relocation agency. But can you talk about that a little bit and how one
Yes.
use a relocation agency? And then this third one, which I didn't completely understand, Border.
Border was,
Could you
yeah,
talk about that as well?
one of the requirements for moving over was a thing called NIF, which is kind of like a Portuguese social security number. And when we came over, you needed some legal representation to help facilitate that. And Border was a company started by expats who saw the need, and they helped for a small fee. They were able to get you this number. And this number is one of the things that are required for your application. So we used them, but Relocate to Portugal was the company we used. She's absolutely wonderful, highly recommend. And her company will help make sure you've got all your ducks in a row so that it's correct, your packet. Now, many people have done it themselves. They don't necessarily
Right.
need help from this company. We wanted to do it that way. I'm glad we did.
Was it expensive?
At the time, it was less than it is now. I think her fees have gone up. But I want to say maybe 1,200 euro.
Well, that's not very much though, to help make sure your application gets through correctly. There are a
And
couple.
we did get a turnaround in 6 days.
That's amazing.
It was amazing, and we weren't expecting that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what happened.
I guess there's probably a longer wait now. There are some kind of practical questions here in the chat. I don't completely understand this question. So Brandy, I might get you to jump in and have a discussion about this, but how is traveling across the border? Will you need to just update your US passport? We'll just answer the first part. How's traveling around Europe with a US passport? Is that a challenge?
No, but we have a Portuguese residency card, so we're able to come in the EU. We're not in the EU, in the Schengen zone. There was a problem for a while until we were able to renew, but we have no problems traveling because we're legally here as residents, as temporary residents.
I mean, when you're in the Schengen zone, once admitted, you can freely travel to all the Schengen countries.
And Schengen is everything in Europe, not most countries in Europe. Not Switzerland, not the UK, I think.
Not the UK.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you should always have some form of ID with you.
Yeah.
But whatever passport you have, once you're in the Schengen area, doesn't really matter.
And Brandy, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I guess it's, with Katherine coming back to the States over the past 3 years, you just making sure that your US passport is updated and renewed.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Then you're able to go to other EU countries. But like you said, do you use your US passport to get into the UK?
We have to, yes, we
Okay.
do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So non-Schengen.
And when it's time to renew it, we'll renew it through Lisbon, through the embassy in Lisbon.
Yeah.
Well, so ideally, we're going to have the Portuguese passport. We're going to have the US passport. So
do they allow you to keep your US passport when you get a Portuguese passport? They allow dual citizenship?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent.
What they don't allow is dual license. I had to hand in my Texas driver's license to get a Portuguese driver's license. It's a process.
Yes, yes, okay.
I mean, you can use your driver's license for a number of years, but dependent on the country, you eventually need to change that for your,
Mhm.
We have a question from Christy about shipping furniture and or cars. I've recently looked into this about the car. Because everybody knows I'm moving to Holland. I don't need a car there, but I will be going back and forth to Spain when we get a place in Spain. And I need a car for the dogs. It's the easiest way to get the dogs back and forth. And I looked into it, and the cheapest price I could find was like $2,000 to ship the car. Plus, I'd have to get all kinds of paperwork. And so I decided to sell my car here and then start over there by buying a used car, something equivalent to what I have now, maybe slightly newer. It looked cheaper to me because in many places in Europe, you don't even need a car. Now, Catherine, I'll let you answer that.
We don't have a car. We didn't ship a car. We came with 4 suitcases. So we literally did it that way. We sold our things, and we sold our most things so that we were able to come very lightly. And we rebuilt once we were here. We rented an unfurnished apartment, and we went to IKEA. We had a table, we got a good mattress, and then we went from there. And before you know it, now we have an apartment. But we
Well,
did build it from scratch.
I furnished my entire house in Fort Worth with Facebook Marketplace furniture, and I've
There you
checked.
go.
And you have Facebook Marketplace in Holland. I assume you have it in Portugal as well.
Mhm.
And my experience with Facebook Marketplace is you can get really lucky because people just need to get rid of something, and you can
Mhm.
find some very nice deals. I assume that you could do that as well if you wanted for furniture.
It was relatively easy. And yes, there are also people there have been a few people when they leave or when they maybe buy a house and it's filled with things that they're not interested in, they will post, on the Braga sites for people to help, to sell or buy, or, sometimes give away. So
Right.
we did it relatively slowly. We had the big things in place, and, before you know it, it's homey now. So. Yeah, but that was a lot of people don't do what we did. They do ship their belongings. So I couldn't speak to it because we didn't do it, but for them it was well worth it. And we brought pieces of art, kitchen things, and small pieces of art and then I had got bed frames here to lighten the load. But
Oh, interesting, because I'm
clothes and
planning to ship art, kitchen things, and just a few little things that I don't want to get rid of. And, but I'm not planning to ship any furniture, mainly because it'll just be in storage for a while until I get to Spain anyway. So, so. Connie has a question about shipping dogs not in crates. Yeah, it's very expensive. I checked, and my dogs, they're not that precious. They're going in the crate. Yeah,
that's with the private planes usually, right? They're
yeah,
small planes,
it's
and
so
I remember it
expensive.
being about $7,000. I don't remember
It's like
per
$10,000 for them to fly on the
yeah.
plane. Yeah,
So they're
yeah,
not in the crate, they're on they're,
yeah.
that is another option. Some people do.
Yes, a very expensive option if you can afford it. I think some people are, I feel like the dogs will get over it. I think they'll be
Oh, yeah, I
stressed
agree.
for a few hours and then they'll get over it. I'm also going on KLM, which is famous for their humane treatment of animals for shipping. Okay, now I don't see any more questions, but everybody feel free to unmute and jump in with questions or comments. You can tell us, you can ask Catherine questions, you can ask me questions, you can just make a comment about your own journey and anything that you find interesting. But feel free to unmute and discuss it where you are in your journey if you'd like.
Hey Jana, what was that company that you said? We were talking about dogs and you said
KLM, that's the Dutch national carrier, and they're very famous
KLM.
for their
Okay.
treatment. Yeah, there. If you Google like what's the best airline for pets, they always come up first. And it's not that expensive. From what I understand, it'll be about $500 a dog. On top of my own ticket, which is only about $600 because I picked a date to to go now. So
Oh, okay.
it's,
Because I had Canine Jets and Bark Air, and those are the ones that are very expensive.
they are because they don't have to go in crates, right? That's you're paying for the fact that they don't have to go in crates. Like, and KLM, they're going in crates and cargo, but they do go down and check on them. I've seen some good videos about it.
Which
Uh,
are the ones where where the dogs don't have to go in crates?
The ones that Connie mentioned that I think those were your $10,000 per.
Well, I missed that though. If she could repeat.
It's Canine Jets and Bark Air, and you have to book in advance, way in advance.
I think they're charter
Like
flights and they're
one
not.
dog,
Yeah,
what, and a person can go, in the cabin.
it's about 8,700 per dog and human. Dog and human, 8,700. But yeah, you have to book way in advance, or you can spend 10,000 on Canine Jets and have two dogs under 50 pounds. Because if Jana and I don't have dogs under 50 pounds, so no. So if you have little animals, they can probably go with you on your regular flight. But
Yeah, they can if they're small enough
yeah.
to go under the seat in a crate. They don't get to leave the crate during the flight. So
Yeah, no, mine aren't that small. I've got a 26-pound and a 30-pounder. So
You can take both of those on a Canine Jet probably for about 10,000.
okay.
Yeah.
Would that include me too?
Yep. It includes, yeah, human. Canine Jet is a human and two dogs under 50 pounds each. And then Bark Air is one dog, one human, no
I don't
matter
think they
the,
go everywhere though. So be careful
right.
because you're going to have to get them. If they only fly to Frankfurt, for instance, you're going to have to get Frankfurt to wherever you're going. So be aware of that.
That's true. I think it's France and London. I think that's it. So,
Oh, where
Yeah.
Canine Jets flies or where Bark Air flies?
Don't go to London. That'll be a pain.
No,
France or London, yeah.
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 Just
Okay,
look them up. Just look them up, and it's really, really user friendly. So,
okay, yeah, because I have two dogs and a cat.
Speaking
So-
of dogs, oh my goodness. Hold on one second. Hey, one second. Hey, no. Get off my. Thank
we're
you.
done. They're fine. So I don't know if anybody on here is familiar with,
Sorry, guys. I just painted my windowsill and they're jumping on the windowsill because the dog.
Nice, nice.
uh,
Somebody
yeah, I
asked,
watched Jana's saga, her dog sagas. So,
somebody asked about pets quarantine. No country quarantines pets anymore. I don't believe. Not dogs and cats. I've not heard of that. You get an EU passport for your dog. And that's like $550, something like that. But it's really no big deal. It's just paperwork because you probably already have a chip in your dog and a rabies shot.
Yeah.
So it's probably just the fee for the passport.
Yeah, I
So
guess
I-
I have to check with each country because I have one dog that's autoimmune and his specialist says, if you love your dog, don't vaccinate him again because you could kill him.
No one will let you into the Europe without a rabies vaccine. I'm 100%.
What about with titer?
I don't know, but I just know rabies is one thing that is not common in Europe. And one of the reasons is because they're very strict.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check on titer
I
testing.
think they only care about rabies for the most part.
Okay, I'll have to check about titer testing.
You have to go to USDA, a USDA vet to get the pet passport.
write that down. You have to go to
But it-
USDA to get the pet.
No, you go to a USDA approved vet.
Oh,
I
okay.
know that two in the DFW area are called city vets and VO vets. They're USDA approved and they both do the pet passport.
City vets and what else?
VO, Victor Oscar, VO.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a little technical question, and it probably nobody knows what I'm talking about, but I have a Google Voice for work, and it's Houston based, so area code Houston based, but I can call all over Texas, and my clients or students, whatever, can call me. So my question is, when I go over there, it's not a phone, it's just Google Voice on my computer, but I would have to be able to make international calls to be able to call my students and my students to call me. Is that correct?
It should work just fine, normal Google, right?
We use iPlum for that.
Well, okay. So I can't tell my employer that um it has to be where I can just do it. That's why I was asking if anybody had any kind of experience with Google Voice in Portugal calling people in the United States with it not
Should be
being.
just like a local call on Google. It
Should
shouldn't.
it?
Yeah, it shouldn't
Okay.
change. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think it
Our
would be,
iPlum number has like a 972 area code, so it's, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, mine has a Houston one because that's
Yeah.
where we're based out of, but okay.
It's
I'll
good to
just
keep that. Yeah.
Catherine, maybe can you get a Google Voice and we'll Google Voice each other so I can see if it works?
This is an app, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
should
That's
be.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else would have any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are there any groups that go over to Europe to help you find a place to live? And this is a two-parter. My issue is, and Jana knows this, I have this horrible fear of flying, and I've been trying to find a fear of flying course locally in DFW. And where you go to a class and then you take a freedom flight, and that helped me tremendously in the past. My problem is I didn't follow up with it. So, two-parter. Anybody know of a fear of flying course? Anybody know of a pilot or flight attendant who will go with me on flights and hold my hand? Short flights? And the second part is, are there any companies that like charter to go overseas to show their clients, these are all the different places you could live, and here's all the ins and outs?
There very well could be on the second bit. I know there are companies that will set up an apartment for you and soup to nuts so that when you arrive, it's all ready for you. We didn't use them, but I know that they exist and there are probably more out there. So that would just maybe something to Google. Of course, there's a premium charge for that, but it could be very, very much worth it because then you arrive and everything's there. I can't speak to someone as far as chartered flights to do that, but they may have gone and kind of extended to not just setting you up here, but planning the whole event for you. Because we started this 3 years ago, and it's probably there may be very well be some of those things, but I would just do some research and see what you can find. You'll definitely find someone to help you set up a whole place and scout around the country. That is definitely there for you.
I
Okay,
think
well,
Charmin wanted to say something. Charmin?
Oh, just to kind of add what Catherine said, for all of you who are interested in doing research, I would really recommend that Facebook group, Americans and Friends PT. They have a whole file section that covers every topic you can imagine. And people that post on there have had lots of real life experiences, some positive, some negative, but you can find out a huge amount of information, vital information about the nuts and bolts of moving here, and from phones to finding an apartment to how to travel with your pets, to deal with about everything you can imagine. The only caveat I would say is that the administrator is a little bit prickly, and she gets really annoyed if you ask a question that is addressed in the files. So just to be aware of that. But it's just a wealth of information, nitty gritty things on everything, from like this company Border that Catherine used, I also used, but everything you can think of is addressed in there. And plus a lot of people's personal stories. So it's really, really helpful.
So Charmin, I'm gonna put you on the spot now, just because I'm curious. We haven't met before. Tell me about your experience too. I'm guessing you're friends with Catherine. You know each other in Braga.
Yeah.
Is your experience similar to hers? What was your experience like moving? And
Yeah,
where?
a little bit similar. We're in the same Portuguese class too. And the thing that's made it really easy here is that there is a really strong expat community, and you kind of feel like a little bit of a tribe. So everybody has everybody else's back, which is nice. But for me, I had a slightly different reason. Well, I had different reasons for coming, but for me, I have two sons, and one of them lives in Faro in southern Portugal, and the other one's in London, and they've long since left the States. I'm from Alaska, by the way.
Wow.
And I was just at a point where I needed to make a change, and I wasn't happy with staying there anymore. And I wanted a life where I could walk around more easily. I really like the pedestrian lifestyle here a lot. So, you know, I'm long divorced, so I had to do all this paperwork on my own, which was a little bit of a struggle. But you know, I got through it because there's people to help you and agencies to help you. And again, the Americans and Friends PT just clues you into all of these sources that can help you. But you know, it's a little bit, for me, it was because I'm on my own, so it's a little bit scary. But like I said, I do have a son in southern Portugal. That was very helpful. He was very helpful. And then my other son, both of them have lived abroad ever since college. So it's kind of given me a little more comfort level with moving. So there's that. And I lucked out in for the apartment requirement. I mean, there's all these visa requirements you have to get your visa. And again, American and Friends lists them all out. And for the Western states, you have to go to San Francisco. And, you know, I just, you know, I had to fly down there and find a place to stay and, you know, do all that and wait for the visa. And then, you know, it came and I came and I lucked out on getting the rental agreement because I could just use my son's address as a first place to
Oh,
stay.
nice.
So that made that part easier for me because a lot of people, yeah, you do have to either find it online like Katherine did or come over and check it out yourself, which is, you know, it's a little bit daunting. But again, there are people who can help you. In my case, I kind of lucked into a friend of a friend and found my apartment that way. So that worked out really nicely for me. So.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, tonight. For you.
Is
Yeah.
it easy? Can I ask one more question? Is it easy to find a place to live if you have pets, an apartment, like
Oh,
two dogs
that's a
and a
good
cat?
question.
Yeah, I know many people who are renting with pets. We, our contract initially said no pets and we were going to bring a pet and, our pets and, so they changed the contract. It was just the default. So, we didn't because we left our dogs with our kids, with our son in our house, but, in our house in Texas, because they bought our house, so that worked. But we do know many people who rent, and it seems more than not have pets in apartments.
Okay, and you used which company to help you, Catherine?
It's called relocate. Oh, yeah, it's relocate to Portugal.
And I put a thing in the chat. I put the screenshot of the company so you can compare it to other ones that have similar names. And in terms
I
of
did.
properties, that's the Spanish link, but it's the same company. Idealista, it's like Zillow for Europe. Or for certain countries in Europe. I use it all the time for Spain and Italy while I'm fantasizing about how I'm going to spend my lottery win. But they're just normal properties, and I've always gotten responses when I've messaged someone. I've always got a response.
Okay, I'm trying
Hey,
to
can
find
I?
it in the chats.
I just put it
Oh,
back again. Let me do the one again. I'll put all the resources back again, all three of them that Katherine offered. Can everybody see those in case you want to download?
yes.
One is the screenshot for the Facebook page. The other is Relocate to Portugal. That's the service that she recommends. And the other is a service that helps you get a number that you need. I'm not sure
Didn't
exactly.
have, yeah. Like they said, the Portuguese version of Social Security number.
So those sources, then I put Idealista, which you can get a sense of the cost of apartments.
Mhm.
I think locals use Idealista too, right? Not just expats. It's the
I think locals use word of mouth, to tell you
Oh,
the truth.
right. Yes. Yeah, for even
Little
cheaper.
of both, little of both, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking this will probably be on that Facebook page, but I was going to ask anyway. I have rental income from a house that I own here, so that I talked to Jana and she was like, "That's passive income," and then also we have child support too. So is that considered passive income? Does anybody know?
You know, that's something I couldn't speak to. So I
Okay.
don't wanna, I don't wanna say, but there, you know, there's several different visas that are available. So that's something you could do. You could also do a chat with some, like Relocate to Portugal for a fee, make an appointment and ask some questions.
Okay.
Before you make a leap and you get more information about how that would look for you.
Excellent.
That's a
Thank
good
you so
idea.
much.
Good suggestion.
Thank you so much. This is,
Very important.
I was bugging Jana yesterday, so, because I was like, we've got to go. We've got to go.
You know, it does seem daunting, but you're biting it off bit by bit. And as this site, this American and Friends PT is just really full of fantastic information. And you just doing a search in there and you could find what you're looking for or ask questions. But it does seem like an impossible thing, and yet it went very smoothly for us, and I'm glad we did it. We've, you know, one thing I thought about, we had an idea of what our life might look like if we stayed in Texas, but coming to Europe, we had no idea what it would look like. And as it turned out, it's been wonderful. So I would do it again. I would
Yay,
definitely
that's great to
do
know.
it again.
I have
Yeah.
one last question, then we can say goodbye for everybody unless there are other questions. But you know, we talked about you and I have texted about the politics in Europe. One of the things that the Jasons from WFAA asked me today, like, aren't you worried about the politics in Europe and the resurgence of the right wing? I mean, these global trends of fascism, I mean, fascism is usually a global trend. It happens at the same time. But I feel safer in Europe because I feel like Europeans are a little more rational. And I think the politics in Portugal in particular they've been very anti-fascist for a while.
Because it wasn't that long ago that Portugal was a fascist country, and so people
Exactly.
were alive who remembered what that was like.
So
So we do have a party
same.
called, there are some political rumblings, but you know, their platform is more of what we would consider a mid-democratic platform. So it is, you know, it is, I'm not fearful about it because we already know what we have in the United States. And this feels like this is our present now. I think we are comfortable here. We're comfortable with the culture. And if there are changes, we're going to write it out or we'll make another decision.
Well, if you have a EU passport, you also are then able to move to any country in Europe. And it's usually not all of Europe at one time. I mean, we've seen fascists were defeated in France. And Labour Party won the UK, isn't EU, but these things are cyclical and they do move around. So if you have an EU passport, then you have a lot of options. And who knows, maybe democracy will be restored to the US as well at some point. Maybe.
We have high hopes. We have high hopes.
Yes.
Because we do love the country, and we also love Texas. It's just nicer to live here.
Harder to love Texas.
I know we're family there, and but it's so good to live here. So it's a relief.
Does anybody else have a question? Otherwise, I will just thank I will thank Katherine and all of you for joining. I believe this will be stored on Facebook Live, so you can refer back to it.
Okay. Connie Cooley said she's scared to fly. Where does she live?
I'm in Texas.
Whereabouts? I'm in DFW.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're in Fort Worth.
You're in
Like
Fort Worth?
near Burleson. Yeah, I don't like to fly, but there's sometimes you have to. But I
Yeah, I
usually
know.
take something. So I don't know what you're willing to, what
Take
you want to
something
do.
and holds my hand really tight.
Well, my problem is I won't even get on a plane right now to fly. That's how
Yeah.
scared I am.
Oh.
So,
Cruises they looked at or something? Or?
Oh yeah, there are cruises, but those are, you have to book those out.
Wait,
May 2026 is the first one, and you can take your animals on that.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
also, you know, if you want to wait a year and a half, because things book up.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Interesting
So-
to know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I just want to get help with my fear of flying because it's going to be a lot easier to fly over there, find a place to rent, come back, get everything and go back.
Mhm.
You're more than welcome to message me. You know, obviously we're on Facebook, so
I
Yeah,
don't,
you're both connected to
know.
me on Facebook. So yeah.
Connie,
Okay.
I'm under, oh, hang on.
You're both connected to me. I can connect you.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
okay.
So,
Thanks, Jen.
Catherine, thank you so much for
welcome.
being a source of information for all of us. I think I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say it's super helpful to get a firsthand perspective. And you definitely make me want to move to Portugal. It wasn't really on my list, but I definitely want.
We get that all the time. We're like, we should be paid by Portugal tourism because of people really want to see more and more of it because of some of our posts and they, and everybody who will come and visit, I promise you that.
I'm coming.
If I can get over my fear of flying, I'm coming.
And just a reminder that next week we're doing Mexico. I'm interviewing a contact of mine who sells and rents houses in Mexico for Americans who are interested in moving there, which might be a good option for someone has a fear of flying because you won't have to fly. So, okay, all right. Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Janet.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Catherine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.